My daughter picked her stepfather to walk her down the aisle after I raised her alone for years, so I walked away and left her out of my will. I'm 46 years old and a single dad who raised my daughter, Emily, now 26, basically on my own after her mom, Vanessa, bailed when she was just 5. One day she said she needed space, and then she was gone. I later learned why she did that, but I won't spill the tea now. You'll find out later in the story. So, there I was, left holding the bag, trying to figure out how to raise a kid on my own. It wasn't easy, but I did it. I worked long hours, made sure Emily had everything she needed, and showed up for all the little and big moments in her life. For 12 years, it was just the two of us. Emily was my whole world, and I like to think I did a decent job. I was there for every scraped knee, every school event, and every tough day. Of course, she'd ask about her mom from time to time, especially as she got older. Where is she? Why did she leave? Was it my fault? That last one broke me every time. I'd tell her, no, sweetheart, it wasn't your fault. Your mom loves you. She just needed to go somewhere else. I never badmouthed Vanessa, even though honestly, I wanted to. I figured Emily would come to her own conclusions when she was older. Fast forward to when Emily turned 17. Out of nowhere, Vanessa reappeared. It was a regular Saturday afternoon. I was outside working on the lawn while Emily was upstairs studying for a history test. The doorbell rang, and I figured it was a neighbor or maybe a delivery. But when I opened the door, there she was, Vanessa. She looked different, all polished up, carrying an expensive purse and smiling like we were old friends catching up over coffee. James, she said, all sweet like nothing had happened. Before I could even process what to say, Emily came downstairs and froze at the sight of her mom. She whispered, "Mom," like she wasn't sure if she was dreaming. Vanessa lit up and opened her arms. Emily ran into them, and they hugged like no time had passed. Meanwhile, I just stood there in the doorway, feeling like a damn outsider in my own house. I wish I could say that was the worst of it, but oh no, Vanessa wasn't just back to say hello. She came armed with a whole new story, one where I was the bad guy. As much as I wanted to tell the whole story of how harmful Vanessa was, I kept it to myself because I didn't want to break Emily's heart. Over the next few weeks, Vanessa started spending more and more time with Emily, lunches, shopping trips, you name it. I didn't want to stop them from reconnecting. Emily deserved to know her mom. But Vanessa wasn't just reconnecting. She was rewriting the past. She told Emily she'd left because I was controlling and that I made her life impossible. She claimed she stayed away all those years because she didn't feel safe coming back. And the worst part? Emily started believing her. I mean, she didn't come out and say, "I believe, Mom." But the question started, why didn't you ever try to find her? Dad? Why didn't you let her back sooner? It was like I'd been holding the door shut all these years. It wasn't just Vanessa either. She brought along her new husband, Greg. Now, Craig didn't seem like a bad guy. He's one of those overly polite types who smiles a lot and doesn't say much. But Vanessa painted him as some kind of hero, the perfect stepdad who was here to fill in the gaps I supposedly left. I could feel the shift in Emily. She started seeing her mom and Greg as this picture-perfect family, while I was just the guy who did the grunt work when they weren't around. One day, Emily hit me with, "Mom said, you didn't want her around. Is that true?" I swear it felt like someone punched me in the chest. I tried to stay calm. "No, Emily, that's not true. Your mom left because she wanted to. I didn't stop her. I didn't even know where she went." She didn't respond, just nodded, like she wasn't sure what to believe. That was the worst part, seeing my own daughter doubt me after everything we'd been through. Vanessa kept pushing her, pulling the we're one big happy family act. She'd show up with Greg, all smiles, picking up Emily for another outing. I'd watch them leave, feeling like an outsider in my own daughter's life. I figured I just had to wait it out, let Emily come to her senses. But honestly, I wasn't sure how much longer I could take watching. Vanessa rewrite history and make herself the hero of Emily's story. So, fast forward a few years. Emily is now 26, engaged to her boyfriend, Ryan. I like the guy. He's solid, works hard, treats Emily well, and doesn't come off as a know-it-all like some of the other guys she dated. When she told me they were getting married, I was genuinely happy for her. I figured this would be one of those milestones where we could reconnect. You know, I imagined us working together on the plans, laughing about how stressful weddings are supposed to be. Honestly, I thought I'd play a big part. I mean, I raised her right, and walking her down the aisle was always something I assumed. I'd do it first. It seemed like things were going that way. Emily asked for my help with the guest list and even ran some venue ideas by me. She seemed excited to include me, and I told her I'd help cover some of the costs. I'm not rich or anything, but I'd saved up a little over the years and figured it would be a nice gesture. Of course, Vanessa was lurking around the edges of every conversation. She'd pop up with suggestions about the wedding flowers, catering, and even Emily's dress. At first, I tried to ignore it. It wasn't my place to tell Emily who to listen to. But then Vanessa started making herself the center of the plans. She'd say things like, "Greg and I have connections with this amazing photographer," or "Greg's friend owns a venue, and he could give us a great deal." Emily seemed all for it, which stung a little, but I let it slide. This was her wedding, after all. Things were rolling along until Emily and I went out for dinner one night. It was supposed to be a casual thing, just catching up and talking about wedding stuff. We were at this little diner we used to go to when she was younger, and I was feeling pretty nostalgic. Honestly, we were halfway through our burgers when she hit me with it. "Dad, I've been thinking about the ceremony." She started looking down at her plate. I nodded, figuring she wanted advice or something. "Yeah, what about it?" I asked. She took a deep breath and said, "I think I want Greg to walk me down the aisle." I froze for a second, thinking I must have misheard her. "Greg," I repeated, trying to keep my voice steady. She nodded, still not looking at me. "Yeah, he's been such a big part of my life these past few years, and Mom thought it would be meaningful." There it was, Mom thought. Vanessa's fingerprints were all over this. I didn't know what to say. I just sat there staring at her. This was supposed to be my moment. I'd been there for everything, every school event, every tough day, every achievement tanned. Now she wanted Greg, a guy who showed up halfway through her life to take my place. "Okay," I finally said, keeping my voice as neutral as I could. Emily looked relieved, like she'd been expecting me to blow up. "I just think it would mean a lot to everyone, you know? It's not about replacing you or anything. Not about replacing me." Then what the hell was it about? The rest of the dinner was a blur. I think I nodded a lot and made some lame comments about how the food was good, but inside I was fuming. How could she not see how hurtful this was? When I got home, I sat down and tried to make sense of it. I went through every memory of raising her, wondering if I'd messed up somewhere. Did I not show her enough love? Did I make her feel like I wasn't there for her? But no, that wasn't it. I knew what this was. This was Vanessa. She'd been working on this for years, planting seeds, twisting the narrative until Emily believed. Greg deserved this moment more than I did. The next day, I made a decision. If I wasn't important enough to walk my own daughter down the aisle, then I wasn't going to help pay for the wedding either. I called Emily and told her straight up, "Look, I love you, and I want you to have the wedding you want, but I can't support something that pushes me aside." She didn't argue. She just said, "I understand," in this quiet voice that made me feel like the bad guy. But what was I supposed to do, smile and write a check while Greg played the role I'd spent 26 years earning? No thanks. Vanessa, of course, wasted no time jumping in. She called me a few days later, all fake sweetness. "James, I heard you're not helping with the wedding anymore. Emily's really upset." Yeah, well, maybe she should have thought about that before asking Greg to take my place. I shot back. "James, don't be so dramatic," she said, like I was the one overreacting. "This isn't about you. It's about making everyone feel included. I laughed bitterly. Right? Included Dex. 4. The guy who actually raised her? Vanessa sighed like she was tired of dealing with me. You're making this harder than it needs to be. Can't you just be happy for her? Happy. That was rich coming from the woman who walked out on her kid and then swooped back in to manipulate the facts. I hung up before I said something I'd regret. I said something I'd regret after that. Things got tense. Emily barely called, and when she did, it felt forced. Vanessa and Greg were clearly taking center stage in her life, and I was being pushed further into the background. I kept telling myself, this was her decision and that I had to respect it, even if it felt like a slap in the face. But deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being replaced not just on her wedding day, but in her life. So after that dinner and the phone call with Vanessa, I was pretty much done bending over backward to make things easier for Emily. At first I thought maybe she would come around. Maybe she'd realize how much this was hurting me and rethink the whole Greg-walking-her-down-the-aisle thing. But nope, if anything, it felt like she doubled down. She started acting different, distant, cold even. She wasn't outright rude, but you know when someone's being polite just to keep the peace? That was Emily. Conversations that used to feel natural now felt forced, like she was just going through the motions. One day, I called her to check in like I usually did. Hey Em, how's everything going? It's fine, she said, her tone clipped. I'm really busy with wedding stuff. Anything you need help with? I asked, even though I knew the answer. No, Mom and Greg are handling most of it. Of course they were. It stung, but I didn't press. If she didn't want my help, lest it was financial, I wasn't going to beg for scraps. Still, it was hard not to feel like I'd been pushed out of her life entirely. This wasn't just about the wedding anymore. It was about everything. Vanessa, naturally, was loving every second of it. She kept popping up with her little passive-aggressive comments like, oh, Greg is so excited to be such an important part of Emily's big day. Or Emily's been leaning on Greg so much lately, it's really brought them closer. I wanted to tell her to shove it, but I knew that would only make things worse. Vanessa had a knack for turning every situation into a pity party for herself. If I snapped, she'd just use it as more fuel to paint me as the unreasonable, bitter ex. The final straw came when I found out Vanessa and Greg had essentially taken over the entire wedding. Emily didn't even bother telling me about some of the big decisions. I only heard about them through my sister Laura, who was still trying to play peacemaker. Emily told me she's having Mom and Greg sit at the head table with her and Ryan. What about me? I asked, even though I already knew the answer. Laura said, you'll be at the family table with the other relatives. And if that wasn't enough, Emily started taking things a step further. She told Laura that she didn't think I should even give a speech at the wedding. It'd be awkward, she said. Since Greg's walking me down the aisle, we don't want it to seem like Dad's overshadowing him. Are you kidding me? The guy didn't even show up in her life until she was almost an adult, and now he deserved a moment in the spotlight while I was supposed to sit quietly in the back. It got worse. Laura later mentioned that Vanessa and Emily were talking about leaving my name off the wedding program entirely. No father of the bride. No acknowledgement of my role in her life, just Vanessa and Greg front and center. When I heard that, I knew there was no point in trying anymore. They weren't just sidelining me. They were erasing me completely. That's what they wanted? Fine. But I wasn't going to stick around and let it happen. After everything that happened, I finally hit my breaking point. I wasn't going to sit at that wedding, smile politely, and watch some guy walk my daughter down the aisle while I clapped from the sidelines. Nope, not happening. I spent a couple of days thinking about it, trying to weigh my options. Could I suck it up and go just to avoid the drama? Maybe. But the more I thought about it, the angrier I got. Why should I? I raised Emily. I was there for everything while Vanessa disappeared, and Greg didn't even know she existed. And now I was supposed to sit there and play nice. Nah, I wasn't doing that, so I made up my mind. I wasn't going to the wedding. When I first told Laura, my sister, she wasn't exactly thrilled. "James, she's your daughter," she said, exasperated. "You'll regret not being there." "No, Laura," I replied. "What I'd regret is sitting there watching Greg do what I should be doing. This isn't about me being petty. It's about respect, and Emily's made it clear where I stand." Laura sighed, but I could tell she wasn't convinced. "I get it, but don't you think skipping the wedding will just make things worse? You're handing Vanessa and Greg the narrative on a silver platter." She wasn't wrong, but I wasn't about to back down. They're going to twist it no matter what. I thought at least this way I'm not torturing myself, and boy, did they twist it. As soon as Vanessa caught wind of my decision, the phone call started. At first, she played the concerned co-parent card. "James, are you seriously not coming? Do you realize how much this will hurt Emily? She's the one who decided to hurt me, Vanessa," I replied calmly. I'm just responding to her choice." "Don't be ridiculous," Vanessa said, her tone dripping with condescension. "This isn't about you. It's about Emily and her big day." "I know exactly what it's about," I shot back. "It's about you and Greg taking over like you've been trying to do since you came back into her life. I'm not playing along." That's when Vanessa shifted tactics. She went from concerned to outright manipulative. "If you don't come, everyone is going to see what kind of father you really are," she said. "You're going to embarrass Emily in front of all her guests." I laughed, but it wasn't because I thought it was funny. "Oh, Vanessa, you've been painting me as the bad guy for years. Don't act like this is something new. If Emily's embarrassed, maybe she should think about why I feel the way I do." Vanessa didn't like that answer and hung up, but I knew it wasn't over. Next, Emily called. She didn't come out swinging like her mom, but I could hear the frustration in her voice. "Dad, what's this about you not coming to the wedding?" I took a deep breath. "Emily, I've thought about this a lot, and I just can't do it. I can't sit there and watch someone else take my place. It's not fair to me. It's not about replacing you," she said, her voice rising. "I told you that already. Greg's been important to me, too." "And what about me, Emily?" I asked. "Where do I fit in? You've made all these decisions to push me aside, and now you're asking me to just show up and clap politely. I can't do that." Emily sighed heavily, like she was the one being wronged. "I'm trying to make everyone happy, Dad. Why do you have to make this harder?" "I'm not making it harder," I said firmly. "I'm standing up for myself. You made your choice, and this is mine." That didn't go over well. She muttered something about me being selfish and hung up. I sat there for a while after the call, but I knew I couldn't cave. Then the guilt-tripping started. Vanessa began calling family members, telling them I was abandoning Emily on her wedding day. Suddenly, I had cousins, uncles, and even my aunt, whom I hadn't spoken to in years, calling me to weigh in. "James, come on," one of my cousins said. "It's just one day. Don't let this ruin your relationship with Emily." "It's not just one day," I replied. "It's the result of years of Vanessa twisting things to suit her benefit. This is just the final straw." Even my mom chimed in, and while she meant well, it still stung. "Honey, you've always been such a good father. Don't let this be the thing Emily remembers." "Mom, she's the one who decided to cut me out," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm not going to sit there and let her and Vanessa act like I don't exist." No matter how much they tried to guilt me, I didn't budge. I knew they were all getting their version of the story from Vanessa and Emily, and no one cared to ask me how I felt. The days leading up to the wedding were brutal. Everywhere I turned, someone was asking if I was excited or ready for the big day. I just smiled and nodded, keeping my decision to myself. The last thing I wanted was more people piling on. On the day of the wedding, I stayed home. I didn't want to be anywhere near the chaos. I spent the day cleaning the house, organizing my garage, anything to keep my mind off what was happening. Laura texted me later that evening. "Well, you missed quite the show," she said. "What happened?" I asked, half interested. "Vanessa gave a speech about how Greg stepped up as a father figure. Not a single mention of you. I wasn't surprised, but it still hurt. Figures, I replied. Despite everything, I didn't regret my decision. Sitting at that wedding would have been like rubbing salt in the wound. By staying home, I at least kept my dignity intact. Vanessa and Emily could spin their stories however they wanted, but I knew the truth. Sometimes standing up for yourself means walking away, no matter how much it hurts. After skipping the wedding, I spent a lot of time reflecting on everything. I kept coming back to one question. If Emily was so willing to sideline me in her life now, what did that mean for the future? I realized that if Emily could do this now, then it wasn't a stretch to imagine her continuing to lean into Vanessa's narrative as time went on. What if this was just the start? What if the rest of my life was going to be spent as a footnote in Emily's story, while Greg and Vanessa took center stage? I couldn't let that happen. That's when I made the decision to change my will. I wanted to protect myself. If she wanted Greg to be the one she saw as her father, then fine, he could take on all the responsibilities that came with that role, even after I was gone. The next morning, I called my attorney and scheduled an appointment. When I got to his office, I told him I wanted to remove Emily as my beneficiary and instead leave everything to charity and my sister, Laura. My attorney raised an eyebrow but didn't say much. He asked a few questions, probably to ensure I wasn't acting out of pure anger. But I explained my reasoning. She's chosen someone else to fill that role in her life. I said I'm just making it official. The process was straightforward. But I walked out of that office feeling a strange mix of relief and sadness. On one hand, I felt like I was finally standing up for myself. On the other hand, it was hard too. Let go of the vision I'd always had for the future one, where Emily and I were close, where I got to watch her grow into her life and family. I thought this decision would remain private for a long time, maybe even until after I was gone. But somehow, Emily found out within days. My guess is that Laura let it slip, though she swears she didn't. Either way, the phone call I got from Emily was anything but pleasant. "Dad, what the hell is this about? You cutting me out of your will?" she said, not even bothering with a hello. I sighed, already bracing myself for the argument. "I think you already know why, Emily." "No, I don't," she snapped. "You're just doing this to punish me, aren't you?" "Not at all," I said calmly. "This isn't about punishment. It's about boundaries. You made your choice, and now I'm making mine." She was quiet for a moment, then said, "You're being ridiculous. You're my father. Just because I included Greg doesn't mean you don't matter to me." "Actions speak louder than words," I replied. "You didn't just include Greg. You chose him. You made it clear who you see as your father in the moments that matter most. And I'm respecting that choice by stepping back." Her voice started to shake, and I could tell she was getting emotional. "So that's it? You're just cutting me off entirely?" "No, let's call it something else," I said firmly. "I'm drawing a line. I've spent years putting you first, Emily, but I won't keep doing it if you don't value what I've done for you." She didn't say much after that. She muttered something about how unfair I was being and hung up. For the next few days, I kept expecting her to call back and try to talk things through, but the phone stayed silent. Instead, I started hearing from other family members, people who'd clearly gotten Vanessa's version of the story. Vanessa, of course, took the news and ran with it. She called Laura to tell her how cruel I was being and how much this was hurting Emily. She even told a few relatives that I had disowned Emily completely. But here's the thing. I didn't care. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was standing up for myself. I wasn't going to let Vanessa or anyone else dictate how I should feel or what I should do. A week or so later, got one last call from Emily. This time, she wasn't yelling, but her tone was colder than I'd ever heard before. "I just want to know one thing," she said. "Do you even care about me at all anymore?" I felt my heart sink, but I stayed firm. "Of course I care about you, Emily. I always will. But caring about you doesn't mean letting you treat me like I don't matter. You broke something between you and me that would take ages to fix, if it ever can." She didn't say much after that. She thanked me for being honest in the most sarcastic tone imaginable and hung up. Cutting ties wasn't easy. For weeks, I kept wondering if I'd done the right thing. But every time I thought about it, I came back to the same conclusion. I had to protect myself. If Emily couldn't see the value in what I'd done for her, then I wasn't going to keep pouring energy into a one-sided relationship. After that, I figured they'd move on with their lives and I'd move on with mine. But what I didn't expect was for Vanessa's web of lies to start unraveling so quickly, or for it to happen in such a public way. It all started with my sister Laura. She'd been biting her tongue for months, trying to stay neutral, but after seeing how Vanessa and Emily twisted the story, she'd had enough. "James," she told me one afternoon, "I've kept quiet for too long. Vanessa's been running her mouth about you to anyone who will listen, and it's disgusting. People need to know the truth." "Laura, it's not worth it," I said, not wanting her to get dragged into the drama. "No," she said firmly, "it is worth it. Vanessa has been smearing your name for years, and Emily believes every word of it. If I don't say something, no one will." Honestly, part of me wanted the truth to come out. The turning point came at a family gathering at Laura's house. Vanessa wasn't there, thank God, but Emily showed up, all smiles, acting like nothing was wrong. Laura saw her and couldn't hold back any longer. "So Emily," Laura said loudly enough for the room to hear, "do you really believe all that nonsense your mom's been feeding you about why she left?" Emily froze, clearly caught off guard. "What are you talking about?" she replied. "I'm talking about your mom running around telling everyone that James was controlling. And that's why she walked away," Laura said sharply. "You think that's the truth?" Emily looked uncomfortable. "That's what Mom told me." "Well, she's lying," Laura snapped. "You want to know the real reason your mom left? It wasn't because of your dad. It was because she had an affair and got pregnant. She bailed because she didn't want to face the fallout." The room went dead silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Emily's face turned pale. "That's not true," she said weakly. "It's true," Laura insisted. "Ask her. Ask Vanessa where she was for the first few years after she left. Ask her about the kid she had and gave up for adoption. Your dad stayed and raised you and never said a word about it because he didn't want to ruin your image of her. And this is how you repay him." Emily didn't say anything. She just stood there, her mouth opening and closing as if trying to come up with a response. I wasn't there for this conversation, but Laura called me later to fill me in. "I'm sorry, James," she said. "I know it wasn't my place to say anything, but I couldn't take it anymore." Emily needed to hear the truth. "Don't apologize," I told her. "It's about time someone said it." The fallout was immediate. Emily confronted Vanessa, and of course, Vanessa denied everything at first. Lies are hard to keep straight, especially when people start asking questions. Apparently, Greg overheard one of these arguments between Vanessa and Emily, and that's when things really started to fall apart. From what I heard, he had no idea about Vanessa's past. She had painted herself as the victim for so long that even he believed her version of the story. Finding out she'd lied about something so big shook him to his core. "You mean to tell me you had an affair and a child and never told me?" Greg reportedly said during one of their blowouts. "It's not like that," Vanessa yelled. "That was years ago. It doesn't matter anymore." "It matters to me," Greg shot back. "You've been lying to me this whole time? How am I supposed to trust you now?" Greg didn't stick around long after that. Word got out quickly that he had packed his things and left. Vanessa tried to spin it, of course, saying Greg couldn't handle the truth and was abandoning her. But by that point, people were starting to see through her act. Even Emily seemed to be questioning everything. "She stopped calling or texting me," Laura said. Emily was clearly struggling with what she'd learned and didn't know what to believe. Any more Vanessa's lies were unraveling, and Emily was realizing just how much of it she had bought into. I wish I could say I felt vindicated, but honestly, it just made me sad. I didn't want Emily to suffer. I wanted her to see the truth before things got this messy. But sometimes people have to hit rock bottom before they can start to rebuild. Meanwhile, Vanessa was in full damage control mode. She started reaching out to people, trying to spin the story in her favor. But the more she talked, the worse it got. People who once believed her started turning against her, seeing her for the manipulative person she was. It wasn't just family either. Vanessa's friends, people who had stood by her for years, began distancing themselves. Nobody likes being lied to. And Vanessa had been lying for a long time. Emily hasn't reached out to me since everything went down. But I know she's heard the truth now. Whether or not she believes, it is up to her. I'm not holding my breath for an apology or a reconciliation, but I hope she takes some time to really think about everything. I kept to myself for the next few weeks, thinking I was making progress. Until one day there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find Emily standing there. She looked worn out, like she hadn't slept in days, and for a moment I felt a pang of sympathy. But then I reminded myself of everything that had happened. "Hi, Dad," she said softly. I leaned against the doorframe, keeping my face neutral. "Emily, what are you doing here?" "I wanted to talk," she replied. I shifted nervously, saying, "Please." As I let out a long breath, part of me wanted to slam the door. But another part, the part that still remembered rocking her to sleep as a baby, couldn't do it. "All right," I said, stepping aside. She sat on the couch while I remained standing, crossing my arms. "What's this about?" She looked down at her hands, clearly struggling to find the words. "I've been thinking a lot about everything about the wedding, about Mom, about how I treated you." I didn't say anything. I just waited for her to continue. "I know I screwed up," she said, her voice trembling. "I let Mom get in my head, and I didn't stop to think about how much it was hurting you. I made you feel like you didn't matter. And that's the last thing I ever wanted." Her words hung in the air, but they didn't hit the way I think she thought they would. I had waited so long to hear her admit the truth. But now that she was saying it, it didn't feel like enough. "Why now, Emily?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. "Why come here now? After everything?" She looked up at me, tears in her eyes. "Because I'm sorry. I know I can't take back what I did, but I want to make it right. I want to fix this." Out a bitter laugh. "Fix this, Emily? This isn't something you can just fix. You didn't just hurt me. You replaced me. You made it clear that Greg and Vanessa were your priority. And now that it's all falling apart, you want to come back and pick up where we left off." "That's not what I'm saying," she said, her voice cracking. I miss you, Dad. I miss us." I shook my head, feeling more exhausted than angry. "Emily, I spent 26 years putting you first. I gave you everything I had, and when it came time for you to show me even a fraction of that loyalty, you chose them. Do you have any idea what that felt like?" She didn't answer, just wiped at her face as the tears began to fall. "I'm glad. You're starting to see the truth about Vanessa," I continued. "But this isn't just about her lies. This is about trust, Emily, and I don't know if I can ever trust you again." Her shoulders slumped, and she looked like she wanted to disappear into the couch. "So that's it?" she asked. I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "I don't know what the future holds, Emily, but right now, I need space. I need time to heal, and I can't do that with you in my life." She sat there for a moment, trying to figure out whether to argue or accept it. Eventually, she nodded. "I understand," she whispered. I walked her to the door, and as she stepped outside, she turned back to me. "I really am sorry, Dad. I hope one day you can forgive me." I didn't say anything, just gave her a small nod before closing the door. Meanwhile, Vanessa was still dealing with her own fallout. Word got around that Greg had filed for divorce, and most of the family had distanced themselves from her. She was on her own, and honestly, I didn't care. She made her bed. I'm not saying it's been easy. There are still days when I miss the way things used to be with Emily before Vanessa came back and turned everything upside down. But I've learned that sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is walk away from the people who hurt you. even if they're family. Maybe one day, Emily and I will find a way back to each other. But for now, I'm at peace with my decision. I've spent enough of my life giving to people who didn't value me. It's time to put myself first.